3, 2, 1. Nureen,
Hi, Yusuf.
thank you for coming.
I'm so happy to be here صراحة.
I really appreciate it. انت عارفه ان انت كنتي literally اكتر حد helpful جه على البودكاست ever. والله
That
العظيم.
means so much to me.
You were so excited. She was so excited اول لما كلمتها, and she doesn't know me and I don't know her, and she has more followers than me and she's a lot more important than me, and she was very excited to the point اللي هو I'm really excited, let's do this, يلا انا عايزه يلا let's go. It was super
I'm
nice.
definitely not more important, but
You are
you're so
definitely.
sweet. Thank you.
Genuinely.
لا بس I was excited because I'd seen your other episodes. I'd seen your episode مع تسنيم and I like لا حسيت إن I really like his podcast, like why not.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, and this is the first time I have a professional on the podcast, like someone who is very deep into his work. Yani I've had other people but in other
fields.
Exactly, other fields. This is the first time I have someone who's super dedicated to the field of psychology and therapy, which I'm super excited about because في حاجات كتيرة قوي أنا عايز أعرفها.
Okay.
فوقك من الناس.
We'll get down to كل حاجة دلوقتي.
كتيرة قوي أنا عايز أعرفها بس بعيدا عن الكلام ده كله, before we know or before any person knows أي حاجة قبل كده, I want to know your story.
Okay.
فعايز أعرف where it all started, why you got into it, how far are you along within the field. Like, I want to know everything.
Okay.
يلا بينا.
Oh, this is a really big question. I need to give it some thought.
Very intense.
بص أنا طول عمري I knew from a very young age that what I wanted to do was study psychology. Like I think كنت في المدرسة first I wanted to do forensic psychology. طبعا my parents were like no way هتشتغلي إيه بس I was super passionate about it, and I didn't, like, honestly, if you'd have seen me in school, I didn't care about anything, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do. ما كانش في psychology في المدرسة بس I'm like I'm gonna do this لما أخش الجامعة. And it took me some time to really convince my parents that this is what I want to do. وانت عارف في culture بتاعنا اللي هو طب انت هتشتغلي بإيه؟ هتعملي إيه؟ And back then it wasn't so far away يعني, بس back then there was فكرة إن برضو في stigma بتاع طب انت الناس اللي هتشتغلي معاها هتبقى عاملة ازاي؟ طب انت هتشتغلي فين؟ طب are you even gonna get work؟
تشتغلي مع مجانين.
بالظبط. تشتغلي مع which obviously we have to get into يعني.
Yes we do.
بس I was like no, I know this is what I enjoy. أنا وكان عندي حب للناس غريب يعني. أنا I like to sit down with people and hear their stories and know like what makes you who you are, and I was always interested in that. فكنت عارفة إن ده اللي أنا عايزة أخشه. So I decided to declare in psychology في الجامعة, and then after I graduated عملت masters برضو. And I think it was the best decision I made.
Really?
The best decision.
In terms of what?
In terms of my personal and professional life. Personally, I think هي طبعا it's a double-edged sword. انت بتبقى فاهم اللي بيحصل حواليك, but you also feel like your development, it changes so much because you understand. فده بالنسبة لي was an amazing thing صراحة.
Okay.
Professionally, it paid off because لو ما كنتش عملت ماسترز أكمل كويس. لو ما كنتش عملت ماسترز
I ain't gonna reply to that.
Okay.
My bad.
لو ما كنتش عملت masters, I think working would have been difficult, but because I did my masters بعد كده, it was very easy to work.
Okay.
موضوع
But
كان
do you feel like psychology opened up عشان احنا اتكلمنا دلوقتي ان you felt like it was حسيتي ان هي فرقت معاكي قوي professionally and personally?
Yeah.
Do you feel like personally part of it was because you started to become very self-aware of what was going on?
So I was very self-aware, وعشان كده كنت بقول لك دي كانت حاجة حلوة قوي وكانت حاجة مش حلوة في نفس الوقت. لأن I was self-aware and it helped me grow, but I was also very aware of things happening around me مع الناس اللي حواليا, and also within myself to the point where I was too focused بقى.
You were too self-aware.
ليه بقى الناس دي بتعمل كده وأنا ليه بعمل كده؟ فأنا it was a lot. But there's also another reason, and I don't really speak much about it, why I decided to pursue this career in general يعني. أنا لما كنت صغيرة قوي, I had, like when I was in middle school maybe, I had really bad anxiety, like really bad anxiety. وقتها لما ابتديت أفهم أصلاً أو أستوعب السيمتومز اللي كانت عندي, nobody was talking about mental health أصلاً. And back then, يعني I think it was like 17 years ago مثلا, الناس بجد كانت موضوع ان انت تروح لثيرابيست دي حاجه مش مقبوله خالص. دلوقتي طبعا احنا it's better, بس كانت حاجه اللي هو no way I'm not going to go see someone. فاني افهم يعني ايه الانكزايتي and to go to a therapist that could really help me, and this therapist changed my life and I still remember her لغايه دلوقتي. And because of that I think هو ده السبب من الأسباب غير الانترست في الناس يعني that I was like I want to do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
طيب انت بتتكلمي على therapist she changed your life. What was the process?
I think understanding إن اللي أنا بمر بيه ده it has a name أولاً because يعني
I feel like that's super important.
أيوة
when you label things
بالظبط.
it's super important.
Of course because قبل كده ممكن تبقى حاسس إن أنت لوحدك. Is anyone going through the same thing as me? Am I physically sick? That was a thought I had. Maybe I'm physically sick. محدش كان فاهم يميز بين ال physical health وال mental health. And she helped me understand. And she helped me understand myself. بس above كل ده it taught me I think أهم حاجة في therapy which I try to use as much as I can in my work. حط بقى tools aside, حط self awareness aside أو knowledge. It's the connection that you have with people. It's the relationship that you have with people. And if you have a good relationship with your therapist, هو ده اللي بيغير, هو ده اللي بيساعد. It just takes one person to help you really change your life or to help support you. هو ده اللي بيفرق فعلا.
Okay, بس because I really wanted to get into this.
Yeah.
What makes a good therapist? عشان أنا عارف يعني there's a lot I actually really want to learn.
Yeah.
بس حاسس إن واحدة من أكبر الحاجات عشان I feel like therapy is definitely إن أنا أروح لحد فاهم والحد ده ممكن يدايسكت المشكلة اللي أنا فيها. بس part of it is also إن this is a completely random stranger. حد أنا ما أعرفوش وهو ما يعرفنيش وما يعرفش.
هعمل كده إزاي؟
بالعكس أنا بحس إن أنت if you're talking to someone who's completely random, you're going to open up even more because عشان their judgment won't matter. فاهمة قصدي؟
بس انت بتفكر كده, في ناس كتير ما بتفكرش كده. يعني في ناس كتير بتقعد تقول طب انا ازاي هتكلم مع حد ما اعرفوش. بس I'm with you. I think it's actually easier. بس هو دوره ان هو to find that compassion, ان هو يقدر يساعدك او ان هو ويحسسك ويفهمك ان this is a safe space, وان شغله ان هو يحاول يفهمك نفسك كويس, مش ان هو يعني I mean in the first session or the first few sessions دوره إن هو يbuild الرابور ده ويساعدك إن أنت تبقى as comfortable as you can so that you don't have الفير أو الخوف ده. I think a good therapist has to have empathy. They have to have really good listening skills. ما أقدرش أكون حد بيتكلم و interrupt them constantly مثلا.
That I get.
Or so it's حاجات كده يعني.
And do you feel like the therapist that you were with had الحاجات دي?
Yeah, definitely.
يعني عشان كده you guys connected.
I connected with her بطريقة very deeply, بعيد عن بقى كل الحاجات اللي اتعلمتها. لا, in a very she made me feel like I was a person before I was يعني labeled as someone who was anxious. And I think ده أهم حاجة.
إن she grounded you إن أنت تبقي عارفة إن no matter what happens you're still a person.
Yeah, you're still a person. You're not مش بس عندك 1 2 3.
How old were you?
I was 12 at the time. كنت صغيرة أوي. Yeah.
And what's impressive is in how can a 12-year-old grasp a concept that?
I don't think I grasped it وقتها, but I was part of the healing بالنسبة لي was like wow, I can work on this, I can get over this, I can understand myself, but I'm also connecting مع حد who really impacted my life لغاية دلوقتي. I still think about her ساعات and I still شفتها كام مرة بالصدفة يعني and I think that was the beginning of I want to do this برضو.
Okay.
But also there's a really tough side to this job. بس يعني.
Okay, so احنا بنتكلم ان انتي at 12 you felt super anxious. You went to a therapist which was by the way يعني حاجة progressive قوي ساعتها. عشان therapy لحد النهاردة انت فعلا there's this taboo and this stigma around it ان انت هو انت ليه تروح لثيرابيست؟ طب ما تصلي. لا معلم في فرق يعني. انا مقتنع بربنا يعني انا مؤمن بربنا وده انا مسلم مسيحي يهودي بتعبد بصله بس انا مؤمن بربنا بس I'm still going through a lot of mental trauma. I'm still going through a lot of mentally draining things. فاهم قصدي؟ بس I feel like in خلاص احنا قلنا 12 as a 12-year-old انت روحتي للثيرابيست. She started to give you more information about anxiety. You guys connected خلصنا in high school you wanted to be a forensic psychologist. طبعا انا كانوا خايفين قوي.
no way
اتفرجي على how to get away with murder.
اتفرج على كل حاجه كل الحاجات دي. And obviously they completely like shot down the idea like هتعملي ايه, but then I did it في الجامعه يعني.
Okay, بس في الجامعه you majored in
psychology. Yeah.
Psychology, not forensic psychology.
No, ما كانش فيه. No, forensic psychology يعني تشتغل بقى مع the criminals that you see on that's what I wanted to do because I think I was very interested in that aspect of يعني كنت بحب أقرأ كتير قوي عن psychopathy. I was so interested in it in a way like why do these people think in a way that's different than us ليه مختلفين بالظبط. بس طبعا I didn't do that and I just عشان كنت اولا في مصر what would I have done في مصر كنت هشتغل في مجال يعني it would have been very very narrow الفيلد ده. فقررت ان انا خلاص لا I'm just if I can't do this I'm going to do something else. I'm just gonna I majored in general psychology. بعد كده عملت ماسترز بقى
والماسترز كانت برضه حاجه
counseling psychology.
Okay. When there's a difference between counseling or there's a difference between forensic وفي clinical.
انت clinical you deal with more people who are in clinical graduate with the clinical psychology they deal with much more severe issues. يعني انت لما تبقى بالظبط schizophrenics like depression that really needs يعني obviously الناس بتروح لسايكايترست برضه بس الissues بتبقى much more severe. counseling psychologists بيشتغلوا اكتر بيشتغلوا مع الديبرشن والانكزايتي بيشتغلوا more مع الادجستمنت بروبلمز اكتر. So we use the terms interchangeably في مصر قوي بس الكلينيكال سايكولوجيست بيبقى متخصص اكتر في حاجات يعني الشخص ده بيبقى يعني الايشوز اللي عنده deeply rooted اكتر من الشخص اللي هيروح للكونسلنج سايكولوجيست.
اوكي طب انا دلوقتي يعني as a person who goes through a phase of depression which would you recommend مبدئيا I think it would be best if you also explain what's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. عشان في ناس كتيرة قوي including myself I don't know the actual difference between both. I feel like that's important.
It's very important.
And aside from that لو انا دلوقتي بمر بمشكلة ان I feel like I'm depressed I feel like I'm anxious حاسس انا بمر بمرحلة صعبة قوي في حياتي which would you recommend me to go to if to anyone.
A psychiatrist is a medical doctor so ده دخل كلية الطب he can prescribe medication. Psychologist cannot prescribe medication. فالسايكايترست ممكن يعمل جلسات أو بيعمل جلسات نفسية مش دايما psychiatrist مش دايما so most of the time when you go to a psychiatrist مش كلهم بس هتقعد معاه and they're gonna diagnose you you're gonna get a diagnosis they're gonna give you medication and هتجيلهم مثلا بعد 2 weeks 3 weeks some of them بيعملوا sessions في ما بيعملوش. A psychologist would assess you would give you may or may not give you a diagnosis حسب بيشتغلوا ازاي but بيعملوا basically what they do is بيعملوا therapy. So it's like you go every week usually it's weekly and you learn about the skills or the coping tools that you need to get better.
So احنا بنتكلم ان a psychiatrist is more يعني اكتر من ناحيه الكيميكال ومن ناحيه الادويه.
They can prescribe the main difference psychiatrists ممكن يدوا ادويه. السايكولوجيستس ما ينفعوش because they're not medical doctors.
بس السايكولوجيست بيبقى equipped بالسكيلز
اللي بيعلمك السكيلز يعني بتعمل معاه ثيرابي basically يعني.
طب I have a serious question. Don't you think in being a psychologist would reap more benefits to the person than being a psychiatrist? And let me explain. I'm not trying to عشان again I'm a monkey يعني مش فاهم اي حاجه.
لا اكيد فاهم شويه
يعني بجد بطل صايع في الموضوع ده. بس لو انا كشخص بمر again let's say generally انا شخص بمر دلوقتي مرحله depression مش احسن ان انا اتعلم يعني ايه depression واتعلم ايه coping mechanisms الطرق اللي انا ممكن اتعامل بيها مع depression ده واتعلم السكيلز والهابتس وابدا ابني الحاجات اللي هتقدر تخليني مش بس اتعامل مع depression ده النهارده بس اتعامل مع depression ده قدام
عشان تعمل long term change قصدك.
rather than اني yes I got prescribed a pill فاخد البيل دي and for a sustained amount of time I feel great بس I need يعني ان بدل لما التشينج يجي من بره التشينج بيجي من جوه and therefore it's more lasting. What do you think?
I think it depends on the situation. Sorry, it depends on the situation that you're in. في ناس بتحتاج medication. يعني انت لو انت you have severe depression لدرجة ان انت مش قادر تقوم من السرير لا انت محتاج دواء انت محتاج تروح لسايكايترست الاول وممكن تروح لسايكولوجيست ويقول لك I cannot help you unless you were medicated first. لان الدواء بيشتغل ازاي؟ الدواء بيبقى if you're severely depressed you have مثلا ال feel good hormones اللي عندك ال neurotransmitters بالظبط والسيروتونين والحاجات دي are very low so that may be causing your depression. If it's very very low it's going to cause the depressive symptoms or the anxiety that you feel. فلازم ناخد دواء نتحسن حالتنا النفسية تتحسن so that يكون عندي استعداد ان انا لما اعمل therapy I do it واخد benefits من الثيرابي.
Okay.
Some people don't need medication. They just need the right type of therapy. They need adjustments. بس مش كل الناس. في ناس بتحتاج دواء الأول. It's like if you're severely depressed, then العلاج بيبقى بجد 50% الدواء و50% الثيرابي.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very important.
Severely depressed ده اللي انت literally مش قادر تقوم من على
السرير. مش بتتحرك، مش بتعمل أو يعني your life is really really suffering، فأنت محتاج إن أنت تاخد دواء.
Okay.
الدواء مش وحش. انا بسمع ناس كتير قوي بجد انا رحت للسايكايترست ومش هاخد الدواء، انا خايفه اخد الدواء. الادويه مش وحشه، الادويه زي اي دواء تاني. انت لو عندك سكر هتاخد دواء، لو عندك مشكله في معدتك او لو عندك اي حاجه في جسمك هتاخد دواء. we need to treat our brain. It's an organ.
I feel like because people don't understand the brain, like people understand their stomach اللي هو انا عارف ان فاهم
تاخد حاجه عشان بطني وجعاني مثلا.
بالظبط. بس I feel like people don't understand their brain and that's huge. يعني فكرة ان انت مش فاهم ايه اللي بيحصل جوه دماغك، فكرة ان انت مش فاهم your thought pattern. يعني I've been meditating recently and I talk a lot about this on the podcast because I want to preach it. أنا كده مش يعني لسه بادئ.
بس حلو مثلا.
Meditation is huge and it what it basically does is it allows you to understand and you are not your thoughts. And a lot of people don't understand that you're not your thoughts. ناس كتير قوي بيفكروا ان لو انا بفكر ان انا عايز اعمل حاجه غلط therefore انا شخص
I am a bad person.
Exactly, which is not true. Which is not true. فاهم قصدي؟ So I feel like احنا because of how much we don't understand the brain الواحد بيبدأ يحس ان هو لا انا مش عايز اخد في حاجه تلعب في دماغي. That's a big part of why a lot of people refrain from aside يعني من حرميتها في الدين بعيدا عن الدين تماما. That's why a lot of people refrain from substance use. حاجات زي ويد، حاجات زي يعني عامة marijuana LSD الكلام ده كله. عشان it tricks your brain أو it plays games with
exactly.
بس أنا مقتنع definitely مقتنع بفكرة إن الدواء ممكن يعمل chemical release أو يعدل chemical imbalance في الدماغ 100%
طبعا.
بس ده لو احنا بنتكلم على حاجة severe. بس what about people who take Xanax and who take يعني الناس اللي بياخدوا
مهدئات عشان يهدوا كده.
Yes. عشان أنا أعرف ناس كتيرة قوي
and they self-medicate.
They self-medicate and it's يعني بيوصلوا بقى المراحل إن هو لو ما خدش الزانكس ما خدش نص حباية ما خدش حباية اوف اليوم بيتضرب.
عشان الزانكس من الحاجات اللي طبعا ممكن تبقى ادكتيف بس مش كل عايزه اقول تاني مش كل الادويه. الزانكس من الادويه ديفينتلي ممكن يبقى ادكتيف بس قصدي عشان كده we never self-medicate never. مش عشان انا اختي اخدت حاجه وهي ارتاحت فيها خلاص انا كمان هاخدها، لا طبعا. بس احنا للاسف ماشيين بالمبدا ده. انا مش عارفه مين اخد حاجه ده ريحه هاخد انا كمان نفس الحاجه، لا طبعا. لازم اروح لسايكايترست ياسس بيست على وزني وسني وكل الفاكتورز اللي مخليه يوصل للدايجنوسيس ده. هو ده اللي ما هو طب شغل الراجل ده شغلته ايه؟ لو احنا هنروح نروح مثلا نفس الحاجه اللي انت بتاخدها انا اخدها ومش عارفه مين تاخدها، خلاص هو شغلته ايه؟ صح. ما ينفعش. we cannot self medicate. it's the most dangerous thing you can do.
Really?
Very very dangerous. وللأسف ناس كتير قوي بتعمل كده. And يعني if you ever see a friend of yours who's doing that just يعني urge them ان هم ما يعملوش كده. لازم دكتور. مش psychologist كمان، لازم psychiatrist، لازم طبيب هو اللي يقول الشخص ده ياخد ايه.
So ده من ناحية الفرق بين psychologist and psychiatrist. Counseling psychology and clinical psychology. أو counseling psychologist and clinical psychologist. المين difference ما بينهم إن ده يعني mainly ده ايه وده ايه.
الclinical psychologist deals with more severe issues like someone who is مثلا a paranoid schizophrenic مثلا، حد عنده hallucinations أو delusions.
Which is terrifying.
But it's not that احنا بنحب نفكر فيها زي الأفلام بس it's hard for the person the sufferer يعني. بس counseling psychologist would deal with issues ممكن طبعا مع anxiety مع depression maybe relationship issues بس الحاجات مش as severe as what a clinical psychologist would deal with. فهو ده المين difference. بس احنا we use the terms برضو interchangeably جدا في مصر. جدا.
ده عشان عدم وعي في مصر ولا عشان
عدم وعي وبرضو عشان ما عندناش تخصصات. عندنا تخصصات، عندنا child psychology، عندنا adult psychology بس التخصص مش ما عندناش تخصصات كتير قوي لدرجة ان احنا يعني هنتكلم في حاجة. ده psychologist، ده psychiatrist. That's how we refer to them.
Okay. I feel like another very important point I want to bring up is and a lot of people don't في ناس كتير ما بيختاروش ان psychology is science. صح؟
معاناة حياتنا.
psychology is an art.
okay, psychology is an art and a science. Actually, I'm happy you brought this up لأن دي أول حاجة that I tell my students. أنا برضو I teach برضو غير إن أنا I'm a therapist. This is the first thing I tell my students on the first day of class. بقول لهم مين فيكو reads their horoscope. فكلهم طبعا ومش مس قريت كذا. لا هو أنا I'm like that's pseudoscience. You're never reading your horoscope again.
أخيرا حد فاهم.
والناس تقعد قاعدوا يقولوا لي like بس psychology طب مش ده psychology. No, psychology is a science based on research. الثيوريز اللي احنا بنتكلم فيها دي they're tested. يعني أنا ما أقدرش أروح أقول لحد أعمل كذا كذا غير لو أنواع الثيرابي دي they're based on testing مرة واثنين وثلاثة. psychology is definitely a science. It's an art and it's a science because counseling is an art.
Okay.
You have to learn the skills.
Definitely. Counseling is like coaching.
بالظبط.
Okay.
It's no, I mean like طريقة اللي هو إن أنت you're عشان
تعرف
تتكلم بيها
بالظبط.
You have to be trained. إحنا we get trained to do that.
Okay.
الحتة التانية science طبعا لازم تبقى science. إلا هيخلي الناس تجيلك unless you're giving them actual material that they can use.
And how do you do that? عشان I feel like
what do you mean?
يعني how do you notice الباترنز؟ ازاي بتقدري تنوتسي
تقعد سنين بقى تقعد تذاكره.
بالظبط. يعني عشان انا حاسس طبعا الباترن هتبقى مختلفه من شخص لشخص بس how do you notice a pattern and say okay so عشان انت بتتعامل كده مع مراتك therefore انت عندك كومبلكس من
الحاجات اللي
30 سنه عشان مامتك ما كانتش موجوده في البيت. فاهمه قصدي؟
ايوه.
how do you notice things like that?
First of all وانت في الجامعه احنا بنذاكر الثيوريز دي like obviously there's so many theories like hundreds of theories السايكودايناميك والهيومانستيك الاكزيستنشال كل الحاجات دي بنذاكرها في الجامعه بس انك تطبق الحاجه دي لازم ما اقدرش ان انا مثلا اقعد معاك اول مره اقول لك يوسف انت عندك كذا وكذا that's مش هكون I formed a good idea of who you are. لازم اقعد معاك مره واثنين وثلاثه and I build like a really good relationship and a really good idea and هبتدي من مره لمره my job is kind of to weave like a thread of an idea of who you are. شويه باخد زي clues كده. it's like a big puzzle كده.
That's so
it is interesting.
Okay.
يعني اكن في puzzle pieces كده مش راكبه على بعض وانا بحاول اركبها وبحاول اقول لك do you think because you're the expert انت تعرف نفسك اكتر مني مهما انا عرفتك انت عارف نفسك كويس.
Really do you think in the people know themselves
or if you don't know yourself or if you're not self aware على الاقل psychologist ده دوره ان هو يوريك نفسك. هو عامل زي المرايه بتاعتك. وبيرفع لك مرايه بيقول لك انت شايف الحاجات دي وانت تقول له I can see them or like مثلا لو انت جيت لي قلت لي نورين انا عندي مشكله ان انا مثلا لو انت كل مره جيت لي وقلت لي انا اتخانقت مع ده واتخانقت مع ده واتخانقت مع ده والناس دي كلها اغبياء مثلا eventually I'm going to start picking up on the pattern that there's a common thread في حاجه
probably الناس دي مش اغبياء
probably there's something going on with you so I would tell you like obviously very gently يعني يوسف انت مش واخد بالك ان في like something is going on here that's my job to show you something that you may not be aware of or maybe you're aware of it بس انت مش عايز تشوفها قوي او مش you're denying it.
Okay.
So it's kind of like awareness and then from there we start to work ان احنا نبيلد شويه insight او يكون عندك شويه وعي عن نفسك عشان تبتدي بقى تاخد action ده بيبقى اخر حاجه.
Okay بس الحد like how when do you stop digging لحد امتى
well you never really stop digging بس بتخش في الفيز بتاع الانسايت ولما بتبتدي يكون عندك a complete picture or a much better idea of what's going on مع الشخص اللي قدامك.
Okay.
But you're always ما ينفعش ان انا assume ان انا خلاص عندي الانفورميشن يبقى كله صح. لازم افضل لو انت جيت قلت لي مره لا بس انا حاسس كذا okay I have to take what you're saying.
Oh but that's a process.
It's a very long process.
Wow it is very long.
Yeah.
ده احنا عشان نفهم ايه اللي بيحصل في يعني عشان تفهم ايه اللي بيحصل في بطنك انت محتاج تقعد multiple days. انت بتتكلم ان احنا عاده الواحد بيروح يعني to therapy once a week
عاده usually that's
okay. كل ما تبقى الحاله سيفير اكتر كل ما بيروح اكتر. اوكي
او لو محتاج اكتر.
طب
usually it's once a week.
once a week. طيب
like
لا قولي لي.
لا بس يعني لو بنتكلم على في ناس بتروح كذا مره بس لو مشكله فعلا if it's more severe ممكن بس لو once a week ده النورم يعني.
اشمعنى مش اكتر؟
عشان انت لازم يكون عندك وقت ان انت يكون في حاجات حاصله، او يكون في يعني لو كل يوم او 5 كان في الكلاسيكال سايكو اناليسيس اللي كانوا بيعملوه من زمان يعني بيبقى 5 مرات في الاسبوع.
اوف.
بس ده
كلاسيكال سايكو اناليسيس اللي هو اللي بيقعد
فرويد واللي يقعد بقى على الكنبه واللي احنا بنشوفه في الافلام وكده. ده ممكن نقول عليه ان هو 5 مرات في الاسبوع مثلا، بس ده محدش بيعمله دلوقتي، او بيعملوه بس قصدي مش هتلاقيه في مصر مثلا، مش هتلاقيه. it's not widely practiced يعني psychoanalysis. في طبعا حاجات فيها بنستعملها we borrow from that في شغلنا، بس مش بنعمل اللي هو لا انت بتروح لحد مرة في الاسبوع خلاص.
okay.
and I think that ده النورم يعني.
and usually how long is the
session بتبقى 50 دقيقة. some people go for an hour, some therapists بيبقوا ساعة وشوية، بس the therapy hour is 50 minutes مفروض. ومفروض ان انت you start on time you end on time. لو في حاجة وقفتوا فيها بتبتدوا بيها المرة اللي بعدها. which دايما في يعني عندك clients بقى يخشوا يقولوا لك حاجة like you like مثلا ما يكلموش session كلها and then وهم على الباب بس انا كنت عايزة اقول لك حاجة. so it's like a doorknob confession. فبتبقى حاجة كبيرة قوي like they throw something at you that's very big عشان مش kind of like resistance. انا مش عايزة اتكلم في حاجة دلوقتي بس هتكلم فيها وانا ماشي عشان I'm like leaving
because he's leaving.
هرمي لك الحاجة وامشي.
and how do you deal with that بقى؟ يعني how does
you
that
write notes طبعا.
yes but how does that fit into the puzzle بقى؟
I think in you have to note جزء من الحاجات اللي بتحصل في الثيرابي is the process. انت ممكن تكون بتقولي حاجات كتير قوي يعني ممكن تجي لي يوم تقول لي انا نورين عايز احكي لك حصل في الاسبوع ده وده حاجات كتير قوي. انا I'm like none of these things بالنسبه لي they interest me، بس قصدي none of these things are important على قد ما البروسيس اللي بيحصل بيني وبينك الريليشنشيب هي المهمه. يعني انت لو جيت قعدت انا بسالك على حاجه وانت you're deviating وبتحكي لي حاجات كتير قوي بس مش بترد على السؤال اللي انا عايزه، يبقى that's what's going on. يبقى بركز مع الحاجه دي. او لو هتستنى لغايه الاخر خالص وتقول لي حاجه، او لو قاعد the whole time I'm fine مفيش حاجة but you're sitting like this then obviously في defensiveness yes. so you probe في الحاجات دي. ما شغلتك ان انت تفهم او تحاول على قد ما اقدر ان انت to unpack that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
فكرة يعني I feel like that's the best example I've ever given. أو يعني I've ever been received. I've ever been received. بس أحسن example حد ادهوني عمره موضوع البازل ده. It's so interesting. فكرة إن أنتي بتركبي البازل من هنا ومن هنا وتشوفي. Would you be able بقى قدام يعني do you feel like you have a complete puzzle on someone لحد دلوقتي؟
Never.
Really?
Never.
طب do you feel like you have sort of يعني اللي هو puzzle قربت تخلص لحد؟
مع ناس كتير a few people who I'd say definitely أنا يعني حاسة إن أنا فاهمة كويس قوي بس I cannot be ما أقدرش عمري أقول أنا فاهمة الشخص ده كويس. لا I'm human and I'm prone to error and وهم عارفين نفسهم أكتر مني.
بس هل الناس دي بيبقى الثيرابي معاهم مختلفة because يعني let's say إن أنا دلوقتي خلاص like I like to say إن أنا فاهم الشخص ده مش بس أنا فاهم الشخص ده خلاص يعني I understand the pattern, I understand the history, I understand why this would be a problem. And therefore I'm able to guess يعني give an educated guess إن for example لو حصل مع الشخص ده الحاجة الفلانية يبقى بسبب ده بالظبط ويبقى الريسبونس بتاعه كذا. Okay. How much يعني how long does it take to be able to reach that? ولا does it depend?
It depends on the person طبعا. بس هياخد وقت. I think good therapy takes time.
Is it because people don't open up or is it because it's actually difficult?
Sometimes it's because people don't open up. بياخد وقت ان هم to dig through resistance ده طبعا. و sometimes it's because انت بتتعرف على واحد عمرك ما شفته قبل كده وهو كمان بيتعرف عليك. this dynamic takes time ان انت بجد تفهم الشخص ده وتعرفه كويس قوي. So it takes time which is hard في الشغل بتاعنا لأن في ناس كتير بتيجي تقول لك أنا جيت مرتين وما حصلش حاجة and they're frustrated and this was actually something كنت بعاني منها قوي في الشغل إن أنا شخص perfectionist قوي. فلما حد كان بيقول لي كده أنا like don't say that please because you're working against مش time بس أنت بالذات لو حد عايز يعرف والناس بتبقى جاية مثلا حد تعبان قوي أو عنده يأس من الحياة او زهق خلاص عايز يعرف حاجة، فمع حد بقى يعني عايز يطلع له الحاجة بالظبط ويقولها له بالظبط، ف it's a dynamic of people working together and كده يعني.
I feel like عامة أنا أخدت psychology في senior year في high school وأخدت psychology في الجامعة. أخدته مع I took her with such a sweetheart. كانت she's a really cool professor. I experienced my first ever in my life quote unquote panic attack. هقول لك ليه. انا قلت كوت اون كوت عشان حاسس ان البانيك اتاك دي بقت بتترمى في اي حاجه، اللي هو في حد كسر عليا
حصل لك ايه.
بصي كان it was a very صيف اللي فات، صيف كورونا، صيف كوفيد، very draining, extremely draining summer. I was going through a lot in terms of يعني أنا in my relationship with my girlfriend. I was going through a lot with my friends. يعني الدنيا كانت ملخبطة قوي، شغلي كان واقف، الدنيا فوق بعض ملحوسة بالظبط. We had a confrontation with a friend of ours who did wrong. يعني he crossed a lot of people. We had a confrontation. خلصنا الدنيا، كان كله literally كان خلاص الموضوع خلص. extremely draining. انا مش شايف قدامي، مش قادر اتكلم مع حد، مش قادر اقعد مع حد، كتير ورا بعض فوق بعض، حاجات كتير قوي ورا بعض. فانت حاسه ان انت لا، هو انا بجد مش قادر، لو انا محتاج اسبوع مش هشوف حد، مش هشوف اهلي، مش هشوف صحابي، مش هشوف اي بني ادم، عايز ابقى لوحدي because I need to filter. الكلام ده قبل لما ابدا reflect، قبل لما ابدا meditate، قبل لما ابدا اعمل اي حاجه.
self care.
yes thank you بالظبط، اللي هو self care، اللي هو انت بس زي ما بتخلي بالك من اهلك وبتخلي بالك من صحابك وبتخلي بالك من عربيتك وبتفولها كل اسبوع وبتروح تغسلها كل فين وفين، انت بتخلي بالك من نفسك صح قبل ما اعمل اي حاجه. ده self care. so I got to this point where I was خلاص extremely drained. انا كل اللي بيطلع مني بيطلع من ريزيرف، والريزيرف ده يعني خلاص
ما فيش
مش قادر خلاص، اللي هو بيخلص هيخلص قريب قوي. وعارفه بتبقي اللي هو instant recharge، اللي هو for example هنزل مثلا العب كوره، انا مبسوط لمده ساعه
تاني متضايق
بالظبط، انا مبسوط لمده ساعه وبعد كده انا مش قادر. بس ف it was a very intense conversation. confrontation يعني it was a talk / confrontation. خلصت كده، رجعنا رحنا قعدنا في البيت عند واحد صاحبي and we were talking and I made this comment about استني يعني to make sure yes we're recording because this is very important to me. I made this comment to a friend about the situation and I was like حاجة بمعنى يعني ان انا خلاص I would rather cut that person out. وانا I'm a very logical person في الحتة دي، وناس كتير قوي ما بيتفقوش معايا عشان ناس كتير قوي emotional وبيقدروا العشرة فشخ. انا بقدر العشرة بس بعد فترة معينة او بعد مجموعة غلطات معينة العشرة بالنسبة لي خلاص اللي هو يعني عادي، ما احنا ممكن نبقى صحاب بقالنا 8 سنين بس انت برضه
حاجة خلاص
تفشخني برضه يعني، فاهم قصدي؟ and you're not adding value to my life بجنيه. I'm a very logical person in terms of friendships. If you add value to my life, if I can come to you and talk، لو انا بسأل عليك وانت بتسأل عليا، if you don't give me shit this is huge for me. عشان انا ببقى مشغول كتير قوي وبتسحل كتير قوي عن الدنيا. ف if someone doesn't give me shit I would really appreciate it. really appreciate it. فاهم قصدي؟ فمع الشخص ده فانا بقول لواحد صاحبتنا قوي، قلت لها انا بالنسبه لي الشخص ده خلاص he's out of my life. by the way الصوت ده صوت المروحه بتاعت اللابتوب.
لا عادي انا ما سمعتهاش I'm listening to the story ف I could يعني
it's a very intense story.
لا
فقلت لها بقول لك خلاص الشخص ده بالنسبه لي بره حياتي يعني. and I started talking about that person, not throwing shade. مش بغلط فيه بس I'm just talking in بقول لك انا الشخص ده مش عاجبني في 1 2 3 وشايف ان خلاص هو مش جزء من حياتي، وشايف ان you guys reconsider انه يبقى جزء من حياتكم. فهي راحت قايله لي and it was very toxic مش منها، it was just a very toxic circle and how we reacted to things were very toxic. راحت هي قايله لي انا مش عايز اسمع انت هتقول ايه، عشان لو هي مش not out of bad intention، بس هي انا مش عايز اسمع انت هتقول ايه عشان لو الشخص اللي انت بتتكلم عليه جه سالني
ما كنتش سمعت حاجه بالظبط. دخلت في يعني
هي يا معلم هي قالت دي. and by the way البنت دي I love her, she's like my sister. احنا اصحاب لحد النهارده الحمد لله. هي قالت كده من هنا والله يعني اول مره في حياتي احس الموضوع ده، صدري قفل، مش عارفه اتنفس. ما اعرفش ايه اللي حصل بس حاجه بمعنى اللي هو انا بجد قلبي وقع صدري قفل مش عارف اتنفس اول حاجه عملتها رحت قايل انا ماشي ليتلي سلمت على الناس كلها اللي هو انا ماشي
هجري خلاص I'm gonna escape the situation.
فتحت الباب طلعت بره مش عارف اتنفس مش عارف اتنفس ولا مناخيري ولا من بقي مش عارف اعمل اي حاجه I panicked
طبعا عمري ما كان حصل لك panic attack
عمري في حياتي ما جالي panic attack it was the first time it was in a
اللي هو ايه ده
it was intense قوي
yeah.
عشان اول احساس او اول فكره جات لي هو انا حتى مش عارف اتكلم مع الناس اللي قريبين مني
ده مشكله
بس so it
أيوة
killed me
ايوه ده احساس اللي هو انا اولا مش عارف اللي بيحصل لي
الحمد لله بقى البنت like my like that friend هي متمرسه قوي في الموضوع نوع panic attack بس she's very aware of psychology and how the brain works and how ان في حاجه اسمها panic attack
قالت لك ان ده ممكن يبقى
راحت طالعه قالت لي yo did I trigger you I'm sorry عشان كده بقولك she's a sweetheart I love her did I trigger you I'm sorry اللي حصل
حسيت بيك
I was one of the very few times that I like انا اللي هو عيطت طلعت بره قعدت في العربيه لوحدي اللي هو بقى فتحت مني ما كنتش قادر
بس you know what this is like حاجات فوق حاجات كتير it's like لو انت already كنت في انت بتقول حاجه واحده قالت كلمه بس هي مش كلمه هي الشهور اللي قبلها اللي انت كنت بتقول ان انت تعبان and you couldn't express that فلازم الحاجه دي تطلع
100% it was the first time I cry ever since فاكر my grandpa passed away which was 40 years فكانت اللي هو حسيت ان هو ايه يعني I'm such a wimp ان انا بعيط because اللي هو انا مضغوط فاهمه بس يعني you go through a lot
it needs to come out somehow
and you go through a lot of internal struggles لحد لما الموضوع ده يطلع
ايوه
and I feel like يعني
and that's what made you decide that I'm gonna start like journaling meditating wow
خلاص يعني
حلو قوي
it made me decide clearly عشان انا كمان ساعتها I was كان شغلي واقف عشان كوفيد فكنت عامل ستارت اب والستارت اب كانت ما عرفناش نلونش
نفسيا برضو ده ضغط جامد قوي عليك
we were selling بس ما عرفناش نلونش عشان حصل مشاكل بيني وبين البارتنر اللي كان معايا فالدنيا كانت بجد
واقفه
فالدنيا كانت كلها واقفه وانا I don't know if you noticed or not بس I'm very driven by momentum يعني هتلاقيني دايما بجري اللي هو يعني انا هخلص واروح
عندك انرجي وانا I noticed طبعا
واروح اتمرن وارجع وبعد كده اخرج بالليل مع صحابي وهتسحر فين النهارده وهلعب كوره بالليل فاهم قصدي فايم فيري دريفن باي مومنتم فان فجاه كل الحاجات دي
تقف طبعا
killed me
ايوه طبعا
absolutely killed me بس I feel like that was
you feel like you're in a better spot دلوقتي now that you've started doing these things or
بصي in hindsight yes يعني looking back انا كنت في حته وحشه قوي
okay
and I've talked about this a lot on the podcast in how shit of a person I was وقد ايه كنت بعامل الناس اللي لا I'm very open about it
عشان so becoming more self-aware كمان ده كويس قوي
بس I'm very open about it عشان I know I was a shit person
and it's okay to say it's okay to realize I acted horribly and I'm gonna
with the people
work on
you
myself
love the most yes فاهم قصدي والناس the people I love the most suffered the most
قليل قوي الناس اللي بتوصل للبوينت اللي انت وصلت لها دلوقتي دي
ما هي الفكرة ان انا قدرت اوصل البوينت دي with the guidance of those people like with the guidance of a friend of mine is Mina Shakhlul Mina was on the podcast with the guidance of two of my very very close friends with the guidance of people that I genuinely love
who are telling you like look what you're doing
كانوا بدأوا يقولوا لي I think you should reflect I think you should notice these patterns I think you should do 1 2 3 when I started reflecting تبدأي بقى تعرفي مصايب على نفسك that's why I feel like it's so important because I feel like therapy part of it is reflecting correct me if I'm wrong طبعا reflection is not ان انت بتقعد بقى ورقه وقلم
لا بس خد الحاجه اللي بتتقالك فكر فيها let it like digest it first خليها sink in and then come back to me with your thoughts
يعني reflection helped me a lot because it made me understand the patterns
and
in my
meditation or mindfulness عشان بتبقى grounded في ال here and now مش بتفكر في هيحصل بكره ايه وعملت ايه امبارح طبعا
yes في عارفة there's this يعني المديتيشن اللي بعمله I'm using this app called Calm shout out برضه
عارفاها طبعا عارفاها
مينا شخلول برضه هو he helped me on it I took his premium account because I was suffering يعني اداني premium account بتاعه وانا لسه عامل premium account ليا انا بقى because that's how serious I am about it
عجبتك قوي
ففي
It's
حاجة
a really cool app صراحة
It's crazy ففي حاجة there's a how to meditate 30-day course فبتعمل وهو it teaches you the muscles of meditation muscles of meditation they include concentration they include clarity اللي انت تبقى فاهم اللي بيحصل and they include a muscle اسمها equanimity.
Okay.
So equanimity I've never heard in my life about equanimity قبل ما اخش في الموضوع.
meditation. أيوة.
So equanimity is the muscle of everything will be okay.
Okay.
It's the muscle of being completely and utterly open at every single moment. For example,
to anything happening.
Anything. احنا دلوقتي قاعدين بنتكلم وفي عيال تحت قاعدين بيصوتوا بيزعقوا.
وانت you're
It's okay.
Yeah.
احنا قاعدين بنتكلم وتليفونك رن.
You're not distracted. You're not. انت في اللحظة اللي انت فيها دي.
مع
الكلام اللي بتقوله.
سايق حد كسر عليكي. It's okay. It's not naive.
Yeah.
It's not coming from a naive place. It's coming from a place of
of not judging yourself كمان. not judging اللي بيحصل جواك وبره.
100%.
طبعا.
It's coming from a place of being bigger than whatever it is that's happening. انت ماشية حد كسر عليكي انت حد اتأخر عليك انت حد اتأخر عليكي. ده مش معناه ان you shouldn't fight because في الكورس بيكلموا جيف وارن اللي هو الأوثر بيتكلم على ان sometimes fighting is the right move. But a lot of the times the right move is to
we overreact.
Yes.
طبعا.
A lot of the time the right move is to stand, calm down,
تاخد اللي بيحصل لك
understand what's going on.
طبعا. And not judge yourself for having any emotions.
I feel like judging yourself ده حوار أصلا.
طبعا.
That's a complete.
لا بس I like this idea اللي انت بتتكلم عن meditation الحتة دي because honestly I think meditation has a really bad reputation اللي هو ايه الزهق ده وحنا اقعد اخد نفسي واعمل ومش عارف ليه وبتاع and it's not like that. It doesn't have to be. Some people do it that way. It doesn't have to be. It can be simply becoming aware of your 5 senses.
Yes.
بس.
Yes.
من غير ما تفكر بس it's such a good skill to have ان انت تعرف تعمل كده بس قليل قوي الناس بتعرف تعملها للاسف.
بجد it's beautiful. يعني the best quote I've heard about meditation is meditation teaches you how to respond rather than to react.
Definitely. I like that. I like that. حلوة قوي.
think about it اللي هو واو اللي هو حد جا ضربني وشتمني you react to it by ان انت تضربيه
اللي انت رد فعلك هيبقى انت تضربه
but you can respond to it by understanding what انت ليه
عملت كده بالظبط. I agree with that. I agree with that.
That ties into psychology بشكل مرعب.
ايوه اكيد. I think ان احنا we're really reactive to حاجات بتحصل جوانا. الناس بتقول لنا حاجه معينه احنا برضو رد فعلنا من غير ما نفكر بنقول حاجه مثلا من غير ما نفكر why is this happening or how do I become more grounded more aware before I start to respond او ارد رد فعل مش حلو. لازم افكر الاول. Definitely teaches you. I threw you off when you were saying judgment. I wanted to hear كنت عايز تقول ايه على judgment.
No بالعكس I want to hear what you have to say.
كنت هتقول I think people مشكلة الناس إن هم they judge themselves أو حاجة كده.
I feel like يعني okay let me tell you my take on judgment. أنا حاسس إن judgment comes from a place of okay. مفيش حد بيتولد شايف إنه وحش.
You learn.
Exactly. The system which includes your parents, your friends,
المدرسة.
your school,
طبعا.
your university, your work. They teach you.
انت بتتولد او انت as a child you don't focus on your flaws. You don't focus on الاطفال ما عندهمش الحته دي. انت بتكبر بتبتدي تتعلم يعني ايه تحكم على نفسك
بالظبط.
واكبر مشكله بجد بشوفها مع اي حد عنده مشكله مش لازم يبقى disorder بس usually with people who have anxiety or depression is it's not the depression, it's not the anxiety, it's الحكم على النفس وحش قوي. يعني أنا دايماً بقول I always repeat this بس يعني I don't think I can say it enough. لما حد بيبقى عنده anxiety أو حد عنده depression مش دي الأزمة. المشكلة الكبيرة إن إحنا بنحكم على نفسنا فمش بس يبقى عندي اكتئاب أو قلق. أنا كمان بحكم على نفسي وأنا ليه عندي قلق؟ هو أنا ليه عندي اكتئاب؟ طب ما يكون عندي قلق يكون عندي اكتئاب. إيه المشكلة؟ The minute that you remove the judgment that or you work on saying I'm going to stop judging myself. I'm going to stop being mean to myself. I'm going to stop being critical. ساعتها القلق بيبتدي يقل لوحده. لأن جزء كبير قوي من المشكلة بتبقى الحكم على النفس.
اوكي.
أنا ليه كده؟ أنا ليه مش زي بقية الناس؟ أنا ليه مش زي دي؟ أنا ليه مش زي ده؟ أنا ليه ما عنديش كذا؟ أنا ليه مش ذكية؟ أنا كل الحاجات دي make your experience far worse.
How do you think you can stop judging yourself?
First of all, realize when it's happening. يعني catch it while it's happening.
Okay.
I should كذا دي judgment.
للدرجة
catch
دي.
it. طبعا.
I should.
ال shoulds, it needs. دول judgments.
I need
the expectations the judgment. Why are you judging yourself? I should be the best student مثلا. Why? مين اللي قالك كده؟ You're taught that you should. Your parents expect you to be that way مثلا. Or I shouldn't have anxiety. ليه؟ anxiety is a normal response لحاجة بتخوف. ليه؟ فالحكم على النفس ده عشان get over it, we really have to work on catching it while it happens, consciously being aware of okay, I'm judging myself. اهو في judgment تانية كل مرة تحصل I just catch it. بالpractice. وصدقني بعد شوية becomes automatic اللي هو okay I know that's a judgment خلاص I'll move on. I'll let the thought come بس I'll let it go عشان عارفة إن الفكرة دي it's not valid. أنا بخلي نفسي I feel emotional about it because of how I feel about it.
بتخلي نفسك to feel emotional about it.
I judge myself more. By judging myself experience بتاعي بيبقى أوحش. فاهم قصدي؟
Okay. مبدئيا I agree with that 100%. 100%. وحاسس إن I want to reflect on a point. The point of I should and I need and I have to.
أيوة.
That's huge.
أصل ليه تحط على نفسك ال expectations دي؟ I would like to ممكن أقول I would like to achieve كذا كذا كذا. I would like to be this way. But I don't need to be. And if I'm not, I'm going to survive. And I'm okay with being who I am دلوقتي without adding the extra shoulds, needs, wants. في حاجة اسمها بدور عليها على جوجل. You will enjoy looking through these. Cognitive distortions. These are distortions. These are errors in thinking that we use all the time. اللي هو black and white thinking. أو shoulds أو needs.
Okay.
بنستعملهم طول النهار. أو over generalizations.
بس.
عملت
لا كملي.
ان انا لو عملت مثلا وحش في الامتحان ده يبقى انا فاشله. دي over generalization or labeling. فاشله. او ان I need to. طب again تاني ده expectations. كل دي errors in thinking that make us feel bad about ourselves.
I have a very interesting question.
Please go ahead.
Don't you think that أيوة labeling is wrong أو ال expectations غلط.
Okay.
بس في نفس الوقت ال expectations دول they breed Hall of Famers بقى.
ان انت تعمل كويس.
انت تبقى superstar in whatever field that you are.
خير الامور الوسط. يعني انا مش I can't be on one extreme of like not مش حطش نفسي اي goals وابقى سايبه وعادي وبتاع.
Casual.
كده مش هعمل حاجه. Casual كده casual. Or ان انا ابقى I'm so hard on myself. I'm such a perfectionist لدرجه ان انا مش عارفه اعيش. هو كده مش هعمل وكده مش هعمل. لازم ابقى اقول لنفسي okay this is what I want to achieve. These are my goals. How can I get that done? بس I'm not going to be so tough on myself لدرجة إن أنا ما أقدرش أعيش. Like okay أحط expectations بس مش هموت نفسي. If it's making you suffer then you're probably يعني trying too hard. أو you're probably judging yourself. That's how I see it. يعني لازم يكون في وسط.
Where did that come from? Was it through ان انتي تعلمتي it was through knowledge not through experience.
No انا اتعلمت افتكرت قصدك على نفسي. لا على نفسي.
Was it through experience?
I actually I'm working on this. I was such a perfectionist for years and a people pleaser for years.
Really people pleaser دي كبيرة قوي.
ما كنتش بعرف اقول لا ده اولا. وحتى صحابي كانوا بيتريقوا عليا في الموضوع ده. If you want to say no you could just say no. But I learned in people will take advantage of you. You will feel resentful. You'll feel angry. You'll agree to things you don't want to do. وبعدين اتعلمت بعد كده إن لا أنا أختار الحاجة اللي أنا عايز أعملها أو I can let people down and nothing is gonna happen. I don't have to be perfect and nothing is gonna happen. I can make mistakes. It took me so long to learn this. وللأسف قعدت فترة عشان أنا دلوقتي I'm taking a break from counseling.
Really?
Yeah, I'm only teaching now.
مش معنى.
وهدي بقى جزء منه إن أنا
if you're comfortable talking.
No, I'm comfortable talking. It's not like a big secret يعني. قررت اخد break like a short break من الcounseling عشان I realized I was reaching a point where I'm saying all these things to my clients and I'm really suffering. I don't think I'm being very hard on myself. I'm using ال perfectionist tendencies بتاعتي تاني. أنا لازم أساعد ده ولازم أعمل ده and it was too much. It was getting to be too much and I had just had a baby وقتها يعني هي أكبر دلوقتي بس قصدي I had just had baby. I was going through a lot of anxiety و depression مع نفسي and I was like, this is too much, and I need to learn when to draw the line. And now I'm taking on too much.
Wow,
therapy is one
huge.
of those jobs. The therapy is one of those jobs, like, you have to be in a good place. And if you're not, even if you're fine but you're not in the best place, لا, you do your own therapy. You have to be reflective. You work on yourself. لقيت نفسي بخش تاني في ال tendency بتاع I need to أعمل ده وده وده وده. I have to do everything perfectly or else I won't do it. فقلت نفسي لا خلاص, I can put my work on hold. Nothing's gonna happen. هيحصل ايه؟
Wow, you know how big of that, يعني you know how big that is.
I hope, and
it's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
It's hard to reach that point though, ان انت تقول لنفسك
very difficult.
لان انا قعدت سنين بقول لنفسي I worked so hard because it's a job that I love and I don't want it to become something that I don't enjoy anymore. فاهم قصدي؟ I don't want to drive myself لحتة ان انا I'm dragging myself. فلقيت نفسي لو انا هوصل للمرحلة دي انا هوقف دلوقتي. I'll get back to it when I feel like I don't have that expectation على نفسي طول النهار. Because I'm also teaching, I'm also a mother, I'm also doing so many things. فما اقدرش اكون مموتة نفسي عشان اطلع حاجة في الاخر هساعد الناس بس انا في الاخر هبقى depleted. I stopped. And I think it was a good decision for now. يعني it's a temporary decision بس
that self-awareness level مرعب ما شاء الله.
بنحاول نتعلم يعني من الشغل اللي بنشتغله.
It's amazing.
I hope it's the right decision يعني.
ما أنا also كنت عايز أسألك على الموضوع ده إن مبدئيا يعني let's get into, because I know there are a couple of things we want to get into. But I wanted to ask you about that because I feel like it's very important. In as a therapist, when do you feel like أو مش when يعني as a therapist you're very kind and gentle with everyone.
Yeah.
But you're probably not as kind and as gentle with yourself.
It's very true. Very true.
How does that make you feel? أو يعني إمتى حسيتي in why am I giving other people chances and I'm not giving myself another chance? Why am I giving other people space and I'm not giving myself space?
مشكلة حياتي. دي مشكلة حياتي. I think you put your finger on it like wow, I don't think anyone has ever like أخدت بالي إن أنا recently أخدت بالي طول عمري كنت عارفة إن أنا I over like I have to I give too much. I'm not كده مش بتكلم عن my clients, بتكلم عن الناس اللي حواليا في حياتي, my family, my friends. it was too much. But when it started to become part of my work, like I have to be كده قوي, but I'm critical of myself. Recently I feel like I became critical, مش recently, يمكن من السنة اللي فاتت أو اللي I became very critical of myself. I was like خلاص I started the page السنة اللي فاتت وعند البيك بتاعت الكورونا I think maybe June ولا حاجة, and I started becoming much more self-aware لما كنت ببتدي أكتب حاجات. and I like to write كتير, ببتدي أكتب حاجات that كنت عايزة أعمل توعية نفسية على الصفحة يعني obviously that was the main goal, but I also wanted to connect with people and I wanted to see, do people feel the same way I feel about certain things ولا لأ? Am I alone in this feeling, whatever this feeling was? وابتدى يطلع بقى a lot of things that were very deeply personal, and I was like okay, I'm really critical of myself في حاجات كتير قوي. like there's a side that's like لا I'm aware that this is not right and logic, وبعدين في الناحية التانية اللي هي the very emotional side and I could see it, and then other people started to see it برضو اللي هو طب انتي therapist انتي ازاي يعني how can you write things that are deeply personal like that, but aren't you afraid? That was something I was struggling with obviously, like how can I be myself authentically 100%, because I don't want to ever go back to being someone I'm not. I want to be 100% أنا. How can I be myself but also without يعني the personal and the professional لازم يكون في line.
And how do you do that?
I try my best to remind myself that I'm human first and then therapist second.
Oof,
and that people are going to connect.
Huge.
Yeah, people are gonna connect with you or want to connect with you on the platform because you're human and because you feel sometimes the way they feel, or because you give them بتتكلم على حاجة هم ممكن يكونوا حاسين بيها بس مش عشان انت بتديلهم information بس. If I was on the platform giving people information, ده anxiety 1 2 3, depression 1 2 3, but I wasn't connecting with people, I don't think it would have had the same يعني impact.
Nothing.
And I try my best to show up authentically as a person and then as a therapist. That's how I بحاول أحسبها كده. بحاول يعني. بس yeah يعني. I try.
What was the most difficult challenge that you faced في الموضوع ده؟
في البيج
مش يعني في البيج يعني if you
Yeah.
do want to talk about the page
Yeah.
yes.
لا and the most difficult challenge I think مش بس في البيج عامة is like reaching a point in my life I think where I was just authentically 100% myself without needing to please مش عارفة مين ومين وأعمل ده لكل الناس لا وصلت لمرحلة I'm going to do what I want to do من غير ما أجي على حد طبعا. That was the hardest point in my life but I think honestly I think I finally reached الحتة دي.
Wow, that's such an incredible step.
I hope I feel I've reached it.
That's such an incredible step because a lot of what we طبعا correct me if I'm wrong يعني a lot of what we expect of ourselves and a lot of what we think we want is not what we want, it's what people around us want.
Expectations بتاعت الناس.
يعني أنا كنت بكلم مع أختي عندها 10 سنين من كام يوم.
بجد.
أنا عندي أختين واحدة 15 واحدة 10 سنين الاثنين very into sports الاثنين بيلعبوا سكواش professionally. وكنت بكلم مع أختي الصغيرة. كنا رايحين من التجمع لمصر الجديدة نفطر عند جدتي فكنت قاعد بكلم معاها وأنا في العربية. We don't really spend quality time together. It was nice. It was a good ride.
أيوة.
فبقول لها ها فريدة أنت what do you want to be when you grow up? Very cliche question. Very cliche. I like to ask cliche questions, but I like to follow them up with a lot of why.
Make her think بقى أكتر عليه.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was like, so what do you want to do in the future? What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a professional squash player.
Yeah.
فقلت لها really.
Okay.
قالت لي قلت لها do you love the sport?
Okay.
قالت لي قلت لها do you really love the sport?
Okay.
فراحت قايله لي يعني ساعات بحب اقعد في البيت. ساعات بحب ما اروحش التمرين بس بحبها. قلت لها اوكي انت بتحبيها عشان مامي بوبي قالوا لك تحبيها ولا انت بتحبيها عشان
انت بتحبيها بجد؟
والله العظيم. والله العظيم راحت
it is very deep.
she's 10 years old. راحت ساكتة كده قالت لي ما اعرفش.
واو.
بدأت تفكر.
ايوه طبعا.
It's crazy.
ايوه. How much we take من الناس اللي حوالينا مش واخدين بالنا.
programmed. واهلي مش عايزين اي حاجه غير يعني they want the best for her. هي عايزينها تبقى بطلة سكواش عشان الابطال بيبقى ليهم حته معينه ستاتس معين. في الكوميونتي اللي حوالينا هتبقى مخلي بالها على صحتها ومخلي بالها وكونكشنز وكوميونتي وهكذا. بس وانا بكلم معاها راحت قايله لي ان هي ما تعرفش لو ده حلمها
ولا ده حلم حد تاني اتشجعت قوي لان لقت ان هم مزقينها في الحته دي
فهي ما تعرفش ده حلمها ولا حلم
and she's very young كمان
and she's 10 years old
but you asked her a very good question
فاهمه قصدي
لا a series of questions خلوها تفكر
ما هي I feel
like
الناس محتاجه تسال الاسئله دي لنفسها بس
هو انا عايزه ايه مش الناس اللي حواليا عايزه ايه
yes
طبعا
exactly
we don't do that we don't do enough of that خالص
we don't do
and we
that
end up living the expectations بتاعت بقيه الناس
100% it's great يعني انا عمري ما حد سألني السؤال ده ولا حد من اهلي ولا حد growing up no one ever looked at me and genuinely asked me
وانت بتحب ايه
هو انت تحب ايه كانوا الحمد لله اهلي ليهم فضل عليا ما اقدرش اوصفه
طبعا
عشان اهلي very supportive يعني very supportive يعني كنت بسقط الجامعة وكنت بسقط literally بسقط 7 مواد في الجامعة and they still decided to support me ان انا اخد الدبلومة اللي هتقدر اخليني ابقى مدرب وكنت مخيش جامد قوي في الجامعة they still supported me ان هو لا خلاص هنعمل الأوضة وهنعمل الحيطان ونجيب الطريق فاهم قصدي they are extremely supportive بس at the same time because عارفة لما حد بيحبك قوي لدرجة ان هو بياخدك ويخبيك
ايوه
فانت لما بتخبيني انا ببدا ابقى عايز الحاجات اللي انت عايزها بس معلم دي مش الحاجات اللي انا عايزها اصلا
اللي هو you start to kind of become the parent you become who they are
yes
and من غير ما تبقى عارف what your likes and dislikes طبعا
I feel like the biggest takeaway that I would give to anyone whether بقى ادي وده مش advice عشان انا no place shape or form to give advice
no but you can بالعكس
بس the biggest
as you grow up you learn
the biggest takeaway is ask yourself what you actually want not what your mom
من غير wants. الناس التانية صح
let's say ان بالظبط ان let's say ان انت اهلك امك وابوك واخواتك وصحابك والكوميونتي كلها توافق على اي حاجه then you can make a solid conscious decision about what the hell I wanted. ممكن تبقى يعني ممكن تبقى اي حاجه بتحب تعمل مناديل خلاص that's your thing bro. ممكن تبقى whatever it is.
المهم ان هي حاجه تخليك انت تبسطك انت.
Yes, and something that you can find peace and comfort in. And I feel like therapy and psychology is that too.
Yeah, definitely. It's like what's the one thing that I feel defines me or makes me who I am or interests me بعيدا عن الناس من غير expectations. طبعا definitely هي دي الحاجة. بس yeah, I feel like you found it برضو. You found yourself من غير الناس اللي حواليك, من غير الpressure اللي هو ده انت لازم تعمل كده.
I don't think I have.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
I don't think.
But you seem to be on your way to it.
I hope so.
يعني انت يعني
I'm very احب اقول ان I not very طبعا بس احب اقول ان انا
you're very self-aware.
احب اقول ان انا to extend self-aware.
حسيت
هقول لك ليه عشان انا I know the patterns.
Yeah.
Like لما بتعصب انا متعصب اوكي. انا بلاحظ انا متعصب فين. انا متعصب هنا. طب انا متعصب ليه؟ عشان a very very deeply rooted part of me.
Yeah. عارف التريجرز بتاعتك.
Yes.
Okay.
A very deeply rooted part of me thinks and if my girlfriend goes out with this person, that means that she's not prioritizing me. That means that I'm not loved enough. That means in
تخش بقى في بس انت عارف نفسك كويس enough to know how to تربط الايفنتس دي ببعض وتعرف ده معناتها ايه بالنسبه لك.
الحمد لله that I feel like موجود حته ان ماشي I understand where I'm coming from. I understand what my triggers are. I understand اللي هي tweaks, quirks. بس being completely self-aware ده بقى اللي هو
طبعا
مش Maslow's
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think ما فيش حد بيوصل ever يعني self actualization اللي هو خلاص بس we try. We're all aiming to find our يعني to reach our potential كلنا. And طالما you're growing and you're aware of these things بتعمل غلطات بس you're still aware عادي. that means you're growing. You're not stuck.
I feel like the process is beautiful.
طبعا. وانت كمان لما تلاقي نفسك you كبرت اكتر وخلصت الجامعة you're gonna be another person كمان and you're gonna know نفسك اكتر كل ما تعدي. طبعا
over time كمان البيسلاين strength بتاعك بيبقى اقوى كتير.
ايوه طبعا.
لو انت بدات تشتغل على ان انت عايز تبقى شخص اهدى وما تتعصبش البيسلاين سترينث بتاعك بعد اول سنه تمرين على الموضوع ده لخامس سنه تمرين هيبقى اقوى. لسه هتتعصب عادي. لسه هتبقى anxious عادي. لسه هتفيل depressed sometimes
بس تبقى فاهم نفسك كويس على الاقل. طبعا.
and you understand that it's
okay to be this way. بالظبط. definitely لا انت you nailed it on the head. Like it's okay to be this way.
It's crazy. ما هي فكرة I don't think and I have this meditation. This is purely meditation. عشان كده بقول لك I genuinely والله أنا بجد فضل meditation عليا غير عادي.
هيعمل فرق كبير قوي في how relaxed you are and how aware you are and how reactive or not reactive you are للناس اللي حواليك.
It saved my relationship
بجد.
وحياة أمي.
Wow.
It single-handed me to مش أنا بس it single-handedly saved my relationship.
Wow.
Literally عشان it made me understand. عشان أنا كنت زي ما بقولك I was a really bad person. أنا my intentions are good. My execution زفت.
يعني
عارفة
لو عايز اوصل لحاجه هضربك عشان اوصل لها.
لما يبقى التفكير حلو.
ايوه بس انت في كل حاجه تانية
بس الاكسكيوشن زفت.
no way. واو.
فاهم قصدي؟
and it's so refreshing to see someone who يعني زي ما قلت لك I think you're really you're on the road to self awareness. It's refreshing to see حد who is so interested in meditation and mindfulness and has had a good impact على حياتهم. عشان انا ما بقابلش الناس دي كتير. كل ما اكلم حد ايه ده it's nice to see someone who's young كمان who understands أهميتها.
I really appreciate يعني
لا I like that. كمل please.
الحمد لله هو والله يعني it's just surrounding yourself with good people is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
طبعا.
عايز اقول لك حاجه we did an hour already.
Oh no way.
والله أنا
مصدق.
والله ما
that flew by like quickly.
All right, I know you want to get into a couple of topics. Like 2-3 topics.
الثانية بس I think that was one of the we're talking about the page and حاجات.
We're talking about the page. أنا كنت عايز أسألك how's therapy in Egypt? sigh. Not sigh of relief.
Honestly, لا بس احنا عملنا يعني بجد احنا كنا فيه مثلا من 10 سنين we can't compare it دلوقتي.
تحسن طبعا،
ففي تحسن مرعب. ولكن we still have a really long way to go. People are much more open ان هم يروحوا لثيرابيست عن قبل كده، عن من 10 سنين مثلا. بس لسه في الخوف بتاع طيب انا لو رحت لثيرابيست is this confidential؟ في حد هيعرف ان انا جيت ولا لا؟
You wanted to talk about that اللي هو client therapist
confidentiality ده جزء منها because I feel like so many people are like is this confidential ولا لا؟ can I talk؟ في حد هيعرف ان انا جيت ولا لا؟ طب فده خوف لسه عند الناس.
يا نهار ابيض، الناس خايفه من انا جيت ولا لا.
ايوه. لا طب انا ممكن مثلا بالذات لو في waiting area مثلا، في ناس تبقى مش عايز تيجي في الويتنج area تقعد وقت معين عشان they don't want to run into someone else. فإتس لسه في الخوف بتاع الجادجمنت من الناس التانية. بس طبعا we are nowhere where we were من 10 سنين. يعني الدنيا بتتحسن جدا. Really I think يعني we're really starting to normalize therapy في مصر وفي الميدل ايست. لا احنا جينا يعني بجد big jump. بس لسه طبعا الناس بتخاف من النوتس بتاعت الثيرابيست. انت بتكتب ايه؟ and even though you can show them انت بتكتب ايه؟ طب وانت بتكلم مين على الكيس بتاعتي؟ حاجات كده which I understand. It's not easy to open up to someone and just talk about your life and to know in that this person is going to treat it with respect. It's a big deal. بس للأسف في خوف طبعا لسه جدا. اللي هو انا في ساعات بيجي لي messages على البيج. طبعا I never answer messages يعني I don't give therapy on the page. That's not ethical. بس يعني بيجي لي messages ممكن احكي لك على حاجه بس ما تقوليش لحد. دايما بيبقى في ما تقوليش لحد وحد هيعرف. can you not share it on the page كده. ففي خوف طبعا للاسف يعني. بس we made a big jump يعني.
How do you deal with that?
I always normalize it and I always reassure them and tell them أنا شغلي my priority is to keep what's happening بيني وبينك it's in confidence. The only time في session مش بتكلم على البيج. I don't answer people on the page في therapy questions ما اقدرش. بس في therapy you reassure them إن أولاً we sign a confidentiality agreement أنا وهم. لازم يكون في شروط عشان أنا لو
proper contract.
طبعاً عشان أنا لو بيوم من الأيام قررت أنا هروح أحكي مش عارفة واتعرف ممكن يحصل لي أنا مشكلة. could lose my job. and also بس confidentiality agreement بتقول إيه؟ I will never break confidentiality. My supervisor obviously is the person I go to بالcases. I don't tell her ما بقولهاش أسامي بس لو محتاجة مساعدة. بس the only time I will have to break confidentiality is that لو أنت جيت قلت لي مثلا أنا هأذي نفسي أو أنا هأذي حد. I'm feeling suicidal مثلا.
Wow.
or I feel like أنا هروح مش عارفة أعمل إيه هموت الشخص ده مثلا. I have to go tell my supervisor we have to help this person. We have to get you مثلا hospitalized. ما أقدرش هسيبك تأذي نفسك.
Did you ever?
And I say that no, I've never.
Did you ever encounter?
Never. But I've had therapist friends who have been put in that situation.
Really?
Oh, I've never been in that situation. الحمد لله. بس بتحصل طبعا بتحصل كتير.
People who are suicidal, people who are homicidal.
homicidal بعيد عني لسه ما شفتهاش.
انا عايز اقتل الناس كلها دي. لا دي
بس
ده forensic psychology.
suicidal بالظبط بقى ده حته ثانيه. بس suicidal طبعا كتير طبعا. and you have to act quickly and you have to get someone involved. عشان كده بيبقى مكتوب clearly في الكونتراكت ده unless you are willing and you're going to say I'm going to harm myself or harm someone else, that's when I have to get someone involved. I can't take that responsibility لوحدي.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
طبعا.
That's huge.
Yeah. And if you're under 18 أنا بشتغلش مع حد under 18. أنا شغلي مع أنا I work with adults يعني. بس قصدي حد under 18 you have to have the يعني a guardian or a parent. You have to know عندك رقمه أو كده عشان حصل أي حاجة لازم يكون في emergency contact. ولازم يبقى therapy ده بالconsent بتاع الأهل لو تحت سن 18.
Okay.
بعد كده لا it's fine.
Okay.
حاجات كده بسيطة كده.
لوب مرعبة فكرة إن في حد. How do you deal with someone who's suicidal? Have you ever dealt with not therapies generally?
In like friendships حد يجي يقول لي حاجة زي دي.
Friendships أو personal relations أو يعني حد جالك on the page.
بص no one on the page has sent me and said so far.
الحمد لله.
I've only had this page for a year though so
الحمد لله.
hoping إن نفضل ماشيين كده. لا بس with friends like if someone says I feel like I'm having suicidal thoughts, not a plan but thoughts, بقول لهم بليز روحوا للشخص ده دلوقتي. انا actually would make a phone call and say هعمل لهم ميعاد مع حد يشوفوه بكره او بعده. I'll take things into my own hands if it's a friend. بس with clients it's not. It hasn't. People had said obviously with clients I'm having suicidal thoughts, but having a plan is very different. أنا هروح.
في ناس so the process is
suicidal thoughts. Ideation is very different than actually having a plan.
People have a plan.
Yeah, and they would tell you I'm going to commit suicide النهارده.
يا نهار أبيض.
طبعا it's a big responsibility. ما اقدرش اسيب حد. لو حد جالي قال لي كده لازم I have to get someone involved يعني.
And who would you get involved?
My supervisor.
Who is
supervisor is someone who supervises my work. in charge of me بقى حد اللي بروح له بالكيس لود بتاعي واقول لها مثلا
she a counseling psychologist.
لازم طبعا.
Okay.
طبعا انا مش بدي ديتيلز بس يعني لازم اروح لحد لما اكون I'm stuck في حاجه someone has to help me. فاهم قصدي؟
And what happens in the session؟
يعني we work through يعني بقول لها مثلا النهارده قعدت مع يوسف اتكلمنا على كذا كذا كذا.
لا اوكي لا خلاص كملي في دي because I want to know برضه what happens between the therapist and the suicidal person.
the client. اوكي افتكرت السوبرفايزر.
لا بس I want to know.
لا بس the supervisor بتقول لي يعني if I were you I would you're going into a good direction or I don't know if that's gonna work. What do you think? Kind of gives me ideas and helps me out if I'm stuck.
Okay.
لازم اعمل supervision every few weeks. لازم.
ما
اقدرش اكون بشتغل كده. لازم كل واحد عنده فاهم. What happens with the client is that you have to تكلم حد obviously who's whether بقى حد on the emergency form اللي هم مملوها في أول تكلمه وتقول له الشخص ده is having a plan to kill themselves فأنا محتاج تيجي تاخده دلوقتي وتوديه مثلا المستشفى. ما ينفعش تسيبه. مش هتقدر تسيبه. You have to be there with them until you're sure إن هم هيروحوا لحد. يعني مش هينفع تسيبهم ممكن يموت نفسه. ف unfortunately very 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 serious and if someone ever tells you أنا هموت نفسي take it very seriously. يعني وديهم لحد ما تسيبهمش. make sure they have nothing they can harm themselves with. I don't know if we're allowed to talk on these. Are we allowed to talk about these things?
We're allowed to talk
anything.
about whatever you want to talk.
I'm just making sure إن أنا مش بتكلم في حاجة ممكن تبقى sensitive لناس.
لا يعني it's يعني again if this is sensitive to anyone they are free not to listen or they are free to skip.
أنا مش عايزة trigger حد.
لا I don't think إن بالعكس إحنا this
like
is very
suicide is a triggering topic. بس صح.
Suicide is a triggering topic because people would rather never talk about it. But you need to talk about it.
صح that's true.
يعني you need to talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant being إن طب what if I have suicidal thoughts?
Get help please. There will be so many people who can help you. بجد. And if one therapist doesn't work for whatever reason في مليون حد تاني. Because I know people would say أنا رحت I didn't feel good I didn't connect with the therapist في 100,000 حد تاني. Please don't leave yourself للمرحلة دي. It's a very difficult position to be in and it's not hard. مش فكرة إن it's hard to get out of بس therapy I think in general مش بس عشان suicide should be preventative. And if you feel like you're starting to struggle go to therapy. مش لازم نقع في الكرايسس. أنا بشوف دي كتير قوي بنقع في مشكلة ومشكلة كبيرة قوي لازم بقى ابتدي ألم. لا ليه ألم؟ ابتدي therapy has to be preventative. I think that's the best way to put it.
That's an excellent way to put it. I've never heard that.
Therapy is not عشان ألم اللي فاضل من المشكلة. لا therapy is preventative.
It prevents things from happening. لا wow. It's بجد I can't wrap my head around موضوع suicidal thoughts ده. It's huge. It's a very very big issue.
It's important. We have to be aware of it يعني.
Yes. And I feel like إن شاء الله مع الوقت في السنين اللي جاية لما therapy تبدأ تبقى less and less stigmatized and less and less taboo. ناس يخافوا ويترعبوا ويتكلموا على
حاجة كده.
I feel like that. بس هل بتقدري تميزي بين الناس اللي فعلا struggling والناس اللي are doing it for attention reasons?
But my job is not to play that game بقى. ما اقدرش لو دخلت بقى في الفكرة دي بس اصل هو كذا. لو حاسة ان في inconsistencies I'll show them and tell them like sometimes you say this to me بس انا بحس بكده. How does that sound to you? That's part of my job. بس مش شغلي مش ان انا ابتدي play detective بقى. انت لا انت بتقول كلام غلط او انا حاسه ان انت لا طبعا لان كده هخش في قصه في دماغي مش هعرف اطلع منها.
طيب I have a genuine question.
Yes.
How do you deal with judgment بينك وبين نفسك للكلاينت؟ يعني
if I'm judging a client يعني
we talked about how you deal with judgment بينك وبين نفسك and how you want يعني ما شاء الله الجيرني من اول لما بدأتي as I told you you go with anxiety لحد دلوقتي and how you're a lot closer to self-awareness and being who you really are.
How do I like stop myself from judging someone?
مثلا client قال حاجة مثلا
and you're like
مجنون يعني
ايه اللي انت بتقوله ده؟
مثلا problematic فشخ اللي هو يا نهار اسود.
بص you have to be like I love this question عشان هي يعني مش هضحك عليك واقول لك ان you like all your clients. طبعا you're not gonna like all your clients and there are some clients you like much more than some and some people who will make it very hard for you to work with them because of certain things بقى. يعني مش شرط انا ممكن اكون بشتغل مع حاجه كويس قوي وحد تاني ما بيشتغلش معايا كويس او العكس حسب what my personal history what triggers me and what doesn't trigger this other person. بس في حاجات اول لازم تبقى عارف ان انا لو في حاجه انا عارفه ان it's very triggering بالنسبه لي من الاول كده انا قابلتك حاسه ان في حاجه triggering بالنسبه لي مش قبل ما ابتدي الثيرابي قبلها خلاص then I will not take you as a client.
اوكي من الاول.
لو انا حاسه مثلا ان انت مثلا عندك حاجه انا هتبقى بالنسبه لي personally triggering خلاص مش هاخدك من الاول. If it comes up obviously then I have to be aware of that and I have to do my best ان انا to be as genuine as I can and as congruent as I can معك. يعني ايه؟ يعني مش هضحك عليك هقول لك ساعات لما مثلا بتيجي مثلا متأخر يا يوسف this it feels like I feel a little bit triggered by this and you seem to be doing that كتير can we kind of talk about that we explore that بس مش هخلي الجادجمنت دي to kind of get in the way and if it's really blinding me then this is a sign I shouldn't be working with you. بيحصل حاجات على فكرة في therapy ساعات where something is happening بين ال client وال therapist the dynamic whether it's something good or something bad بقى حاجة I feel too triggered by what you're saying or like I'm judging you or خلاص this is a sign that maybe this is someone I should not be working with and maybe I need to work on my own issues.
اوكي
طبعا
اوكي ناخدها من لوب تاني ان هو فوقك من
why is this triggering me so much. مش هقول للكلاينت طبعا اتكلم مع my own therapist بقى why is this triggering me.
So therapists have therapists.
Should have therapists. مفروض. Sometimes things would come up with me with a client مثلا and I'd feel so triggered and I'd feel like I'm so emotional and I wouldn't feel that way with another client مثلا and I'm like okay لازم أروح my therapist and I have to unpack this because في حاجة بتحصل لي and I need to figure out why this is happening.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
You're studying how you feel and how your mind reacts. Wow.
It's a very interesting job بصراحة. بس بصراحة أقول لك حاجة غريبة قوي. على قد ما الشغل ده أنا بحبه وعلى قد ما أنا I love meeting people and hearing people's stories أنا بجد جالي فترة بجد أنا لما كنت أقابل ناس جديدة like new friends مثلا وكان حد يقول لي بتشتغلي إيه كنت بضحك عليهم وأقول لهم أي حاجة تانية.
بجد؟
Because I would get the weirdest questions like إيه ده like what's the weirdest case you've ever seen like بجد الناس دي تعبانة أو it would really piss me off.
Really?
كنت ببقى بجد مش عايزة أو بحس إن أنا like I'm not having this conversation now. I'm not going to correct people دلوقتي. I'm not going to try like كنت بقى ما كنتش بتضايق خالص لما حد يبقى عنده like you have a genuine interest in like you find this interesting and I like talking about it معاك بس لما حد كان يقول oh my god بجد like it's so bad او like ايه او الطريقه دي اللي هو انت ازاي بجد او ايه بجد اغرب حاجه شفتيها او that must be so weird او these people are so weird كنت بتضايق قوي من الطريقه دي فكنت بدرس بس and I would stop it at that. I wouldn't even say what I teach. I wouldn't even because I know ان في
هيطلع سؤال
ده كان في ناس بتبقى عارف ان هيطلع منهم حاجه كده بيبقى باين يعني هيطلع حاجه كده and other people who you really have like I'm having an interesting conversation معاك and I wouldn't mind talking about
this
ناس
تانية
بس في ناس تانية لا مش فكنت بهرب من السؤال ده قعدت بجد كتير قوي اهرب من السؤال ده. I don't want to talk about like my job is my job and my personal life is my personal life خلاص.
Can I ask you a very deep question and if you're not comfortable to answer it
لا أكيد.
But since you now understand انت دلوقتي ما شاء الله عندك understanding كبير قوي of how to deal with certain triggers, emotions, how to be self-aware. How would you teach that to
a client?
No, your children or someone that you actually truly care about, someone who's young?
First, I think my goal in general مع مثلا بنتي يعني مثلا ان انا عايزة to normalize any and every emotion and to get her to express how she feels من غير خوف. That's how I would start, by normalizing the emotions, by having her understand ان هيحصل مواقف where you can be sad, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be upset, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to feel negative emotions. So starting off with emotional awareness, really building that معاها and building a good relationship ان هي تقدر تيجي تحكي لي اي حاجه وانا I will not يعني ممكن اقول لها اديها feedback I can help her بس مش هخليها تحس ان يا ريتني ما رحت قلت لها. ف and then going from there to build the self-awareness ده لما تكبر شوية. بس starting I think it starts off with understanding your emotions and normalizing each and every single emotion. ف I think that's where I would start. هي صغيرة قوي دلوقتي طبعا بس يعني حاول على قد ما أقدر إن أنا to يعني to do it that way يعني. بس.
That's such a good answer, honestly.
I hope I can do that.
That's such a good answer. We did an hour 20 minutes.
I mean, I'm happy we did. يعني really I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this very much.
It was amazing time.
Well, thank you for having me. يعني أنا I enjoyed it very much.
I genuinely appreciate it. And I would love to have you come over on the podcast again.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do it again. We have another topic.
100% sure. Before we wrap up the podcast, is there anything else you'd like to get into?
Nothing خالص. I feel like I enjoyed our conversation and اتكلمنا في حاجات كتير قوي فتحنا حاجات كتير قوي بس thank you for having me and honestly thank you for what you do because I like ان انت you're so transparent مع الناس and you're 100% نفسك and you just say it like it is and it's refreshing to see on the page. ما بشوفش ناس كده كتير ف thank you for that.
I really appreciate it. Because I genuinely do. What would be a piece of advice that you would like to wrap up the podcast on?
Be yourself. 100% authentically because I see too many people struggle with that and I think the minute you decide to be authentically 100% نفسك من غير أي حاجة زيادة that's when you really start to suffer less, you really start to enjoy life more. Just be yourself. That's my advice يعني.
Wow, what a piece of advice and what a note to end the podcast on. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you and I appreciate it. Well, hopefully we get to do this soon inshallah.
Inshallah we will. Hopefully inshallah we will. All right, what's your Instagram page?
And Talks Feelings.
Such a good username. Very
thank you.
All right, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're still listening, peace.